back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about a book that I absolutely devoured. It was a great, fast-paced fantasy novel, and that is A Duel with the Vampire Lord by Elise Kova. I have read a couple things that she's written, actually quite a few things that she's written. This book was part of the Married to Magic series. So it's a series of books that all take place in the same world. All of the characters are different. The stories and the plots are new each time, but it is set in the same world. So the previous books were A Duel with the Elf King and Dance with the Fey Prince. Now we have A Duel with the Vampire Lord. I've also read her Heir Awakened series, which is also extremely good. Again, kind of fast-paced, easy reads, so I really enjoy that. So I was super excited. I've had my eye on this book for a while, and of course, whenever it did come out, I was ready to read it immediately. It is currently free on Kindle Unlimited if you have a subscription, so definitely take advantage of that if you do. So to start off, I'll do a very quick spoiler-free summary, and then I will get into some of the spoilers and some of my thoughts about the story. So this is almost like a Beauty and the Beast type of retelling, but with vampires. So the world is kind of set up where we have a human village called Hunter's Hamlet, and we have the vampires who live in Midscape. And Midscape is where kind of all the magical creatures live. It's separated by almost like a thick fog that's called the Fade, and the vampires cannot cross it normally, but on full moons and particularly the blood moon, they are able to cross it. So in Hunter's Hamlet, where the humans live, everyone in the village has a specific role. So the main character, Florian, I believe is how her name is pronounced. I'm going to call her Flor because she is called Flor for a lot of the book. She has kind of the most important job within the village. She is the Forge Maiden. So she learned from her mother how to make weapons and armor and all of that stuff. She's great with working with metals. However, because everyone in Hunter's Hamlet has a place and everyone has a role to play, that also means that while she has this very esteemed title, she also doesn't have a lot of freedom. So she does not get to choose who she marries. She's going to be married to whoever the master hunter decides she gets to be married to. And then she will train the next Forge Maiden, her daughter, whenever she has children. So every full moon, the vampires do kind of make their way to the village, and the hunters are able to kill them. But every 500 years there's a blood moon, and it's just kind of like exponentially worse. The vampire lord or vampire king comes out and he controls all of his little cronies that have a hive mind, and things are just extremely dangerous. So the story starts on the blood moon. Flor is kidnapped by the vampire lord, and you quickly find out that the vampires, or the vampires they prefer to be called, are not like mindless beings that are part of this hive mind. They actually are fairly normal for what you would think of vampires. However, they have been cursed, and so because of the curse, they are slowly kind of deteriorating. They can use blood to stop or at least postpone some of the effects of the curse, but eventually they will turn into these mindless kind of vampire monster-like things that just hunt for blood and flesh. And there are like varying levels of what happens to them when they get to that point. So Flor is kidnapped by the vampire lord, taken to the castle where his small group of loyal vampires are working to try to break this curse, and they believe, from all of the research that has been done so far, they believe that a human is the key to breaking the curse. So Flor has to kind of rethink everything that she knows, and suddenly she has this freedom that she's never experienced before, and so she has to work through a lot of emotions that she's having and a lot of thoughts about things that are significantly different than how what she was told as a child and into adulthood. That's an essential summary without giving any spoilers. But to kind of get into really dig into the meat of the plot and my own thoughts about the story. So as I mentioned, this is a Beauty and the Beast style retelling, so of course there is that romance aspect to it. Fleur does end up in a relationship, a very complicated relationship with the Lord of the Vampires, whose name is Reuven. And you actually find out that he's only the current Lord of the Vampires. This curse has been on them for, I think it was 3,000 years. So the way that they're trying to break the curse is they wake up a vampire lord, whoever's next in line, and a group of like loyal followers. And it kind of fits the typical adventure party, right? You have like the muscle, you have the brains, you have like the rogue style characters. So a lot of diversity in the party that he's with. Their job is to try to break it and learn as much as they can. When they get to the point that it's not going to be successful, the vampire lord that they are serving is kind of succumbing to the curse, then they will either kill him or he'll go off himself, and then they will wake the next vampire lord and his party, and that kind of continues. They've been doing this for presumably 3,000 years, and they're all kind of like in stasis. So the current lord of the vampires is named Reuven, and he and Fleur do develop a relationship. It's definitely a slow burn, which I appreciate. I love a good slow burn. One of the things that I wasn't a big fan of with this story is that there was a lot of like inner dialogue for Fleur where she was like, oh, this is really hard for me because all of my life I've been told that the vampires are mindless killing machines, and here I am with these vampires who are super nice and like they're letting me do all the things that I want to do, and I don't know what's gonna happen. So like she would do this like inner monologue every time something somewhat significant happened. And like at first it was fine, but it was definitely, I think it definitely happened way more than it needed to. And even after the relationship kind of started and they were both starting to realize that they had like actual feelings for each other, there was still a lot of like, oh, this is going to take a long time for us to figure this out because we have so much history of like our people hating each other, and I still kind of want to kill you, but not as much. So like it was a lot, and I think the book could have been a little bit shorter, and also like it was fast paced, but it could have been a little faster, I think, if all of that had just been cut down to maybe just a couple of times. Another thing that I thought was kind of overdone is the whole, this might be controversial, I'm not sure, the whole like it's your choice trope. I don't even know if that's a trope, but you know, as I mentioned, Fleur did not have a lot of choices in how her life was going to pan out as the Forge Maiden. However, now she's experiencing some of those freedoms. She gets to choose who she has a relationship with. She doesn't have to make weapons for specific purposes out of specific materials. She can just kind of work in the smithy to her heart's content. So she's experiencing some of those freedoms that she was really hopeful she would have someday. It's just like overemphasized. So I think, again, that was a little too much. It doesn't need to be specifically stated. Like, we can figure it out as the readers that she now has a choice, and that's impactful to her. We don't need a character to also remind us that she now has this choice. So again, might be a controversial opinion. I think it's important that characters who maybe have not had the option to make choices in the past get that, but it doesn't need to be explicitly explained every time. Last thing that I thought was kind of weird was at the end of the story, Fleur manages to break the curse. She like curses a weapon and then stabs herself with it. And of course that ends the curse. Reuven wakes up and he like rushes to her side and says, you know, you're going to die. You have to die. That's how the curse is going to break. But if you would like, I can make you a vampire. Again, it's your choice if you want to die or not. And in the past, they had kind of alluded to the fact that there was a ritual to become a vampire. However, it was extremely complicated. There was only one, I think, recorded case of somebody becoming a vampire that was previously human. And like nobody knew how to do it. I think the scholarly type character named Kalos may have had notes on the ritual, and they mentioned that Reuven, the Lord of the Vampires, was probably the only one who could do it and had sufficient knowledge to do it. However, she's like currently bleeding out from a chest wound, like stabbing herself in the chest, and having this conversation about whether she's going to choose to die or choose to become a vampire and what that would entail. And then he just kind of like quickly does a thing and she's a vampire. So it was really weird because there were no like details, there was no like hint that it was a difficult ritual. He just kind of like dropped a little bit of his blood on her wound. And that's all. It seemed very rushed at the end to kind of get through the last little bit of she broke the curse, now we're going to just quickly make something to make her become a vampire, and that's it. So it was a little bit confusing because they did kind of allude earlier to the fact that it was a complicated ritual that involved a lot. And one of the other rituals that they had performed was pretty complicated. Like they needed to be in their little chapel area, they needed a specific chalice, a specific cape. And then when it came to making Flora a vampire, it was just very quick and not a lot of detail. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I appreciate her writing style overall. Like I said, I liked the diversity of the characters. I also liked that it was a retelling, but it was different. And it was much darker, I think, than what you would think of with the Beauty and the Beast retelling. I'm very excited for the next book in this series, which I think is going to have to do with sirens. I think it's called like a Duet with the Siren Duke or something along those lines. And I definitely need to go back and read some of the additional novels that she wrote in the world of the Air Awakens series as well. Most of those are on Kindle Unlimited as well if you're interested in reading those too. So that is it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you very soon. Bye!